This Week in 40K.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is when you're listening to this. I am Colin. With me is Billy. It is 7 o'clock in the morning where we're at, and we are ready to spend an hour, just 1 hour, telling you what you need to know about 40K from this week, specifically competitive 40K, but 40K also in general. And as a treat later, we're going to get a great opportunity to point out that Colin does not know everything and is sometimes horribly wrong. When we get to the lists, there is definitely something in there where I'm like, okay. So a little bit of a teaser for later.
We talk about what happened at Manchester?
No, there are. You know what? We're just going to wait.
Okay.
I have teased. Also today, we're going to spend a bunch of time talking about 10th edition 40K.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is definitely a thing that y'all need to know.
That is our top story. The 10th is official.
Before we go into that, How the heck are you, Billy?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm experiencing some technical difficulties. The computer that I normally do this on is currently at 25% updating. It's been doing that for 30 minutes now. Gotta love that when your computer just decides you don't get to use me for some arbitrary period of time. My wife is about 8.5 months pregnant, and that is an exciting and stressful aspect of life. Trying to focus more on the exciting. Very much looking forward to meeting my daughter in 3-ish weeks. That'll be fun. Did some reorganizing of the apartment to start getting that set up. The changing station is going where my old desk was. So life is good.
Changing station. All right. Well, that's great.
Yeah. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I've been doing a lot of home projects the last few weeks. I've been trying to catch up on things like, hey, this room hasn't been mopped in 17 years. So I've been trying to push through some adulting. I would like to update everybody on some fun stuff for the network. The BiffPod TNG guys are doing deep dives into factions that are just incredible.
Yeah,
they are thorough, and they are deep, and they are smart. God, those guys are smart. Jeez, it's almost unfair, Billy. Well, like, I was such a train wreck at their age.
I definitely did not have my life in order, but I also definitely had the amount of time to dedicate to a hobby like 40K to understand it to the depth that they do now, which I do not currently. But boy, is it a great way to cheat and just steal their knowledge. I haven't listened to Nick's Votan episode yet, but the orcs and the GSC, like, I went from knowing nothing about GSC to feeling like, oh, okay, I kind of get them now after listening to 2.5 hours of Tyler talk. And it was great.
Yeah, the GSC one in particular, because GSC is a really complicated army that a lot of people, when they see it on the table, they just don't know what to do. So Tyler's episode in particular was really great. The Votan episode was last weekend, which is like a few days ago, excuse me. And then they're also up, of course, next weekend as well. If you're curious to find them, you can find them on YouTube, Best in Tabletop. You can find them on our podcast stream, Best in Tabletop, wherever you get your podcasts. Also this week, on tomorrow, we've got Better Human, Better Gamer. We don't know what we're talking about, but we are both having very stressful times. So what we're going to do is something playful and fun that also talks about being a better human, better gamer. And then, which should be great, that's at 5 o'clock on Wednesday. Always. That's not true. Every other week. And then on Sunday at 9 a.m., it will be BiffPod. And what BiffPod's going to do, the Best in Faction podcast, whose shirt I am non-ironically wearing, what we're going to do is going to be really fun. We're going to start with our thoughts on 10th, and then we're going to roll back into a retrospective of 9th, and then we're going to roll back and talk about 8th. And the reason we're going to do this is because everyone on the internet loves to say, well, 8th was better, well, 7th was better. They were not. As we go back in time, we're going to talk about the most cancerous, awful things that we took to tournament. And I'm really excited for people that weren't around for 8th edition to hear just some of the shenanigans that we'll be talking about. So that's going to be at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12, basically noon Eastern on Sunday. Isn't that going to be fun, Billy?
Very. I enjoyed the Rube Goldberg machine of 8th edition in Ari, and it was better to play against than 7th was, but no one would enjoy being on the other side of that match.
But I'm going to explain just why it was so awful. And I think that some people might really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I know that it was awful because I got to tell you guys, I took that army over with 2 practice reps and then went to a tournament and won it. And then I won the next 26 tournament games that I played. So it was real good, and it worked really well for Colin Spring. But we will talk about that for sure. So let's get rolling. And remember, everybody, if you want to see complaining, you've got Reddit and Facebook for that. We're going to be hype about 10th edition, Billy and I. I have very, very few. I don't even know that I have any criticisms, but I'm me, so I'm sure we'll find one as we go through.
Okay. I don't.
Okay. That's great. We're going to be hype. Let's be hype, everybody. Who wants to be hype at 7 o'clock in the morning? Jason does. Be hype, Jason. Nurgle Matthew does. Be hype, Nurgle Matthew. It's not 7 a.m. for him. All right, we're going to let ourselves talk a little bit extra time about our top story and then get into the tournaments. We will do the thing we've been doing the last few weeks where we do less tournaments, but we go deep tournaments. I'm saying it weird, and I don't know why. Tournaments?
No, you're good.
No, I don't know. I could be like Nanavati. Tournaments.
It's just the British in him.
Richard Sigler does the same thing. Tournaments.
He spends too much time learning about Europe.
It's a Northeast thing, supposedly.
Mm.
So let's talk about our top story, but we don't get to do that till we have some fancy music play. Here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Our top story.
It's the Land of New. Land of New. 10th edition will come out. No, I sang that, didn't I? And 10th edition is going to come out at some point. I don't think we know a timeline.
The rumor is in time for WTC to be 10th.
Well, WTC is August. I would imagine that it'll be out normal. I think that they do June for big releases. Normally.
That's generally, yes. And the generally has held up here with 10th because generally they announce a new edition at Adepticon. Generally new editions come in this many years in between. So knowing nothing, just following the generalies.
All right. So 10th edition is coming. I am always hype for a new edition because I want to learn new things and I want to have new armies. As we get into the tournaments today, I could have pretty much predicted across the board what armies won, the things that they won. There's some exceptions in there, of course. But in general, the meta is already solved for Arcs of Omen, as far as we can tell. And I'm ready for Index Hammer. So let's start by talking about the models, because that's the part I think you and I are going to say the least things about. Not that we're not hype about it.
Sure.
So they showed off Lionel Johnson.
And you get to riff on him first because this is going to be my least hype bit, and I love the model. But you love the model and the rules, I assume. Stupid Dark Angels.
I didn't know that the rules were posted.
No, just you love that he's look. If you wanted to hit all of my erogenous zones with this model, it would have been Russ, not Johnson. So the fact that this is this beautiful model that I'm going to paint and probably even play because I've shoved Gilliman into a Space Wolves list already anyway, and it's even worse to shove the Lion into a Space Wolves list, but I'm going to do it. But you get to probably just put him into a Dark Angels list.
I do own a lot of Dark Angels. That's accurate. And they are my first army from 1995.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. That's more than one Tyler Bortel ago.
It's like 1.5.
Yeah. So that's a long time. And Dark Angels is my first army. And I do love them. And I have a hard time with the lore. My ADHD makes me reading tons of fluff very, very difficult. I do love it though. I watch YouTube videos and stuff. But 15-year-old Colin was enamored by the Dark Angels backstory. So I am all in on the Lion existing. I'm super hyped for that, and I agree with Billy. The model's fantastic.
Which of the 4 heads is your favorite?
I don't know. I like 3 of them. So, moving on, we do have new Terminator models.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about this is I saw them on my phone in a sleepy and groggy state. And I thought, these are new, but they really are.
Yeah.
They matched the vibe. They matched the style so well to the previous Terminators, and they literally just made them bigger and added more detail, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I flat out like how Terminators look today, like before they released new ones. So if they had reimagined them, I would not have enjoyed that. So
there would have been as many opportunities for them to hit as to miss, but just upscaling the current Terminator model, making the poses a little bit more dynamic. Yeah, completely agree. The other fun thing of that is they said that it's either a Firstborn or a Primaris Marine in there, which raises some interesting suppositions about the Primaris Firstbornness of 10th edition and how much it's going to matter or not.
That is interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know what to say about that. I hope we learn more about that soon.
Yeah, I just hope we learn more. It's led to some fun memes of, a Firstborn asking the Terminator, what's inside of you? And Astartes. No, Firstborn or Primaris. And Astartes. Whose gene seed is in you? The Emperor's. It's just like, yeah, it doesn't matter. And I think they're kind of realizing that splitting the Space Marine models that way just encourages the toxic part of the community to be toxic, as opposed to just love your Marines.
I think whose gene seed is in you is really lewd sounding. I just want to say that.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was intended to be.
Okay. So the new Terminator models are cool.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, folks. We've got new Terminator models, or Tyranid models.
Mm-hmm.
The Tyranid model line is so old, and I love my my Termagants, and they have new ones, and they are amazing.
Okay,
they are such an upgrade. The ones we currently have very little detail on them. They're quite old. And one of the things, though, of these beautiful new models is we are under the impression, I'm not sure that they've told us this, but we're under the impression that they're on 28s.
Yeah. I share that impression. I'm not sure why.
Yeah. So people don't like that. I own like 60 or 70 Terminators, so I'm not thrilled with the new Terminator models. But I also own like 60 Termagants that are going to have to be rebased, and the internet is very displeased with having to rebase their Termagants because all of us Tyranid players have a ton of them. So that's not super great, but I also think that 28s make a lot more sense. I think 25s are really small and create a bunch of silliness. In particular, I don't think we need the BS of trying to make 3 rows of tiny bases fight.
Yeah.
So that's my thought on that.
It's good to know about the honeycomb approach to piling into combat, but if no one ever had to learn that, it's probably a net plus to the game. Also, if you have to rebase all of those models, your freezer is your friend, depending on what glue you use to attach it to the base. Because if you use super glue, chuck them in the freezer, leave them there for 6 to 8 hours, and they'll just plink right off the base. One.
Right. Yep, that's right. I don't remember what type of glue I used, but your advice is still great.
Yeah.
John Indelicate mentions an indelicate situation. I'm sorry, John. I can't help myself. He says that GW doesn't sell separate 28mm bases, which makes your basing really difficult. Man, is that a good point? I had to buy off-brand ones.
Yeah, I bought 100 off-brand ones for like $10 on Amazon, and they showed up in 2 days. So if you live in a place that Amazon delivers, it's a feature, not a bug for the bugs.
It's still a bug, but yeah. Okay, did I miss any new models?
That's it on the new models that we know of thus far.
Okay. Here we go. New rules.
Mm-hmm.
The current game is a mess. I'm sorry if you guys are loving 9th edition. There are 735 books that are needed to play. The rules are a massive web of confusion. Making an army is complicated. For a new player to come into the competitive scene right now is a massively heavy lift. GW has heard all of that, and they are going to try to address it. And it's not going to be perfect, folks. It's not going to be perfect. But I am so excited for Index Hammer. I'm just so excited for it. So, Billy, where do you want to start?
So I completely agree that the rules are a spaghetti code of nonsense. As I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed the Rube Goldberg machine of Inari. I like that part of list building, and even I can't figure out how to get both a Primarch and a Helverin detachment into my Space Marine detachment and what lets me take, because the rules are in too many places. I think the rules themselves are better than GW has ever done. I think the organization just needed someone to go through and redo it. And that's sort of what it sounds like they're primarily doing. They're not fun. There were rumors that toughness was going away. Toughness is still here. And with that, all of my concerns are salved, and I have faith in what 10th is going to do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And guys, you got to realize, when I went back to play Dark Angels, I'm an extremely veteran player. I've played something like 400 tournament games over the past 6 years. Okay. I am all over competitive 40K. When I went back to play Dark Angels, I had to read the Space Marine Codex and then the Space Marine FAQ. And then I had to read the Dark Angels Codex and the Dark Angels FAQ. And then I read the stratagems every day for the 3 days leading up to the tournament I was taking them to, and I still missed one. And in the first game against another Dark Angels player, he used a stratagem that I didn't remember and was super excited about. So if the veteran player, and I'm a little bit older than the Tyler Bortel, I'm like 2 Tyler Bortels old, but I'm an above average person, intelligence, I'm an above average intelligent person. I should be able to learn an army and take it to tournament. And if I'm going to struggle, guess what the 19-year-old who's buying models for the first time is going to have to do? So I'm all for us reimagining everything. And I know people are unhappy that the Guard Codex, for example, and the World Eaters codexes don't get to be out for very long before they get redone. That was going to happen. We knew that when the Guard Codex came out. We knew that. Good news, though, Guard players. Your book is so ridiculously strong. Enjoy winning all of your games between now and 10th.
And World Eaters, too. Like, I think World Eaters players would not have imagined that their army was going to be as good as it ended up being.
That's right. That's right. So I played, I came back to 40K for Index Hammer in 8th, and I actually thought it was great. It was fun. So what GW did is, on Warhammer Community, every day for weeks and weeks, they showed us new rules. And they did Necrons, and then they did Blood Angels, and then they did Dark Angels, and they just basically started giving us rules. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. And it was so exciting. It happened at like 8 or 9 a.m. every day. And I would wake up and I would eagerly go to my computer to see the new rules. And I'm really hoping we get that sort of, I'm sure we will get that sort of trickle feed of information, because it's just so exciting. And then now, when I own a bunch of armies and I play a ton of 40K, I'm going to have a bunch of friends over. I might take a week off from work, and we're just going to try stuff. We're just going to put different armies on the table and make different lists. And it's going to be so incredibly fun to see all the new stuff and how the new game plays.
Yeah. My concern is that it would get too vanilla. And my sense is that it's not going to go as purely bare bones, even in the indexes, as my worst fears. And what you're describing of rules drips every day, starting probably in late May or early June, boy, I'm going to be feeding a baby at 4 or 5 in the morning. Nothing's going to make me happier than waking up and reading some rules with my daughter. Get her hooked early.
Yeah, you got to get her hooked early. You're right. I had a dream last night where I was telling a parent that they needed to start teaching their kid to read at 1 year old. I don't know where that dream came from, and that's not accurate.
No.
But it was a very strange dream to have. I I've had nightmares before that Stephanie's pregnant, to give anybody any ideas how many kids we have. All right. So so I'm all for Index Hammer. I also think that some of the books are a massive mess. I think that the AdMech Codex is a violence crime. I think that it is mean, and that it is very hard to play it without cheating. That's just an example.
Unintentional,
Chaos, unintentional. Chaos has so many different books. So Index Hammer needs to happen. And what they're doing is they're simplifying without making it simple, is what they say. And I'm sure that those of us who enjoy the complexity of 40K are going to get frustrated at a few times, right, Billy? Like, it's going to happen.
Sure, but that's, you can always find something to be frustrated on. The fact that they said simplify but not simple shows that they at least understand that concern.
Yep.
Because both sides of that need to happen. It needed to be simplified. The spaghetti code is a mess, and it can't be simple because part of the game's fun is the complexity.
Right. And the thing that stood out to me most is the data sheets.
Mm-hmm.
So I play a lot of Marvel Crisis Protocol as well. And when you play Marvel Crisis Protocol, your characters, let's say you've got Thor. Thor has a card, and all of Thor's rules are on the card. And Thor's card sits in front of you, and you track things on the card, and you can read whatever you need when you need it off the card. And it sounds like, so a data sheet's going to contain everything you need to know for a unit, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
And everything. That's what they say. Special rules, all of it. The example they showed was for the Termagants who get, or was it Hormagaunts? I can't remember now.
I think it's
they get to move. They get to move away when people get near them. That's their special rule. It's on their card. It's not a stratagem. Okay. So that's everything you need to know on that card. And if it's a card like a nice, and I think it will be like a nice high production card, I'm going to take the cards that I'm playing with and I'm going to put them out in front of me, or I'm going to hold them in my hand and I'm going to flip through them. And it's going to be such a better experience than the last 50 pages of a codex that have crusade rules in the middle of them.
And inconsistently organize the stratagems before the warlord traits, before the psychic powers, after the chapter approved rules, which, by the way, have changed 4 different times. Yes, having all of that information in one spot will be amazing.
And they said that all of your armies rules are on a back-to-back, basically a 2-sided sheet of paper, basically is what they said.
I wish them the best of luck in achieving that, but if they can, great.
And I will laminate. If that sucker's not in great shape, I will laminate that sucker. I have a laminator, and I'm not afraid to use it. That is a. So basically, I have to take, and everything. They also said the digital rules for everything. But if I can take a stack of cards and a sheet of paper, and that is all of my rules, I'm down. Okay. It also means that when my opponent does something that seems really sketch, I can look at their rules and I can understand it immediately without having to read the rules and find the fact and then ask the TO how that rule is normally played.
Yeah.
So, I'm all in on the data cards. And also, there's some simplicity. Excuse me. There's some simplification on those cards that I'm really excited about, Billy. Strength on a model was stupid.
It had become so.
And I didn't even think about it before.
Neither did I.
Why do you have strength 4 on your card if everybody has a power sword that's +1 strength?
Or even that they're just saying melee weapon strength user. Well, they're saying it there, so why do you have... Yeah, just moving the strength to all of the weapons they're going to use just makes more sense.
Yeah.
I think... Is it the Weber that uses a strength test? Is that the only time that strength on the model actually matters? And if so, I think
the Tyrannifex as well.
Okay.
Has strength, and then his gun references his strength. It's really silly, and it led me to realize that they have basically made close combat rules and shooting rules more similar, and I think that's actually great. Instead of having heavy 3 or whatever, the guns have a number of attacks.
Yeah.
Much like people do in close combat. It hadn't occurred to me before, but that's a really, really good catch. It simplifies the game greatly if an attack is an attack.
Yes.
So if me attacking at range or me attacking close to you is the same, that's really great. And it's going to make rules a lot easier. And also the current confusion of is an attack only in melee, which a lot of players have. That goes away because everybody has attacks.
Let me put my lawyer hat on for 30 seconds. The best way to do drafting, to write something, is to define it once and then use that definition in a bunch of other places, modifying it as necessary. That's what it sounds like they're doing here. It really allows you to get much more precise and not have the soft, fuzzy language that leads to all of the rules problems that GW has. Lawyer hat on.
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. And the reality of universal special rules, it makes me tingle all over. There are so many units in the game that deep strike.
Right.
There's so many of them, and it's written on all of them, and some of them are written differently for a reason that no one can explain. So that's the problem, though. Like, just to reference Marvel Crisis Protocol again, because it's a very simple example. People can throw people, and people can throw buildings, and people can throw both. And there's no universal rule for that. So every time I'm playing a character, I have to read the two sentence rule for that character about what they can throw, and I have to pay careful attention to the start of the sentence. Does it say enemy unit? Does it say building, terrain? Does it say both? That's the same thing we have in 40K with non-universal special rules.
Yeah.
Why is this different on this person? Is a great question. Okay. Yeah, I'm super excited about that. I think you can just put Deep Strike as a rule on my card. I know it's not fluffy and that it wants to be named something different for Tyranids or whatever, but I'm all in on it.
Yeah. Feel No Pain is the named thing that just no one who came to the game now would know why we call it Feel No Pain, but we call it Feel No Pain.
It's true.
Yeah.
I called rerolls twin linked for the beginning of 8th edition as well.
I go far enough back that the fact that twin linked became a reroll hit was a new thing for me. But yes, I get that.
Okay. So yeah, data sheets, really exciting. Rules all in one place, really exciting. Simplifying stratagems. What's your thought on a lot less stratagems, Billy?
It sounds like you referenced the idea that the Termagants can move d6 inches when you get within 6 inches of them. That would have been a stratagem in 9th. If it's now going to a data sheet, we're not actually losing the rule or losing the ability. We're just making it easier to know how to use it and actually not having to accumulate resources to use it and then spend those resources. We just always get that power. I have no issues with stratagems not being one-use things, but being data sheet abilities. I actually think it's a better way to go about the game for all of the reasons we've talked about. And add on top of that, it lets you use your fun rules more. So right. I think it's just an upgrade, assuming implementation is done correctly.
Right. And you've got to remember that this game is not created for John Lennon, Richard Sigler, and Nick Nanavati.
No.
It's not even created for me.
It's not even created for me.
It's created for an average person, which I'm now saying we're not average. I'm not even normal, so don't take too.
No. If you're listening to a podcast about 40K, you are already more enfranchised than the average 40K player, and that's just a thing you have to realize: is that every single person who's hearing me say this cares more about 40K than 80% of the 40K playing public.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know the actual math because like 3,000 people listen to this, but I'm not sure the actual math on that. But you're right. You're totally right. And they have to write the game for the average person. Everybody has friends that have a worse time learning games than them. Everybody has that friend. And that friend needs to play 40K as well. And they should. It's a great game that, like, I am a gatekeeper friend. I am the friend that gets people into hobbies. I say to Billy, we're playing Destiny. You should come back to Destiny. And we play Destiny like crazy for like 6 weeks. And then my friend Mike and I are like, okay, we're done. Posse out. Then enjoy the addiction, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I got people into Marvel Crisis Protocol. I get people into video games all the time. That's my personality. I don't do that for 40K. I've never one time brought a friend into 40K who didn't play it. It's expensive, it's hard to learn, and for them to get to a point where they can play a game with me that's not me just being a ridiculous person, will take them months of hard work today.
Mhm.
It just will. And so it's very, very exciting for me for the game to be easier for new players. We need an influx of people all the time. The game has to grow, and it's really, really important. You don't want a game whose player base is stagnant.
Right. Yeah. And just exactly what you said. And to Jason's point, that actually makes you the opposite of a gatekeeper.
I was thinking I'm like a gatekeeper drug. Isn't that what they used to call marijuana when they were trying to scare all of
Gateway.
us? Gateway. Thank you. I'm a gateway drug.
Yes. Much more accurately described.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you. I used the wrong word. I'm also not a relic cannon on Leman Russ.
I learned that the turrets on Leman Russes can shoot out of combat yesterday, 2 days ago. And so I have sad feelings about Leman Russ turrets.
Yeah, so simplification, I'm all over it. Less stratagems is great. Right now, there's way too many for most people to remember.
And most people don't use most of them.
Yeah, and they're specially attached. It's so common to have a data sheet and then one stratagem for that specific unit, and they're like 15 pages, 20 pages, 40 pages apart from each other.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
The amount of people who've learned that Shroud Runners have this stratagem that, oh my God, is amazing. And, but you have to dig and dig and dig. And it doesn't even refer to them as Shroud Runners. It refers to them as some, core keyword on their data sheet now. It will be better.
I think the only thing we haven't talked about is objective secured being different, and I think that's great. I don't think we need to talk a lot about that. Do you think we missed anything? Because we do need to talk about tournaments then.
Two things. Force org chart is going away. They said that we don't know it. We don't know exactly what's replacing it, but it sort of sounds like the rule of 3 as it currently exists is broadly coming over, and then just put whatever models fit the points in your army, which makes this guy happy. The other thing, which you talked about, digital rules, Mike Brandt apparently said there's going to be either a new app or an update to this app, and his quote, "and it works," which is a good thing because it references that they know that the current one doesn't really work, and 2, suggests that it does work. These are good things. Allow your optimism to mix with your pessimism and get a realistic expectation, but, allow that optimism to come out too.
Who cares about a realistic expectation? There is no reason to spend the next few months concerned. There's no reason to spend it worried. Just be excited. New stuff is coming. And also, we're going to get a lot of new models, folks.
Yeah.
When they release an edition, like when they released 8th, we got a whole new Death Guard line of models that people were ridiculously excited about.
Yeah,
we're going to get new models, and it's going to happen. We're going to get a lot, and it sounds like a bunch of them are going to be Tyranid models, which, for those that are listening on the podcast, I just made a very excited, like Kermit the Frog style.
Oh, that's a good excited face.
Yay! Hi-ho! Yeah, so yes, 10th edition. I'm sure we'll have lots more to talk about as it comes up. In the meantime, we have 2 months of tournaments, 2-ish months of tournaments to talk about. As we get close to the end, I will just warn you guys that we will skew, and we will talk less and less about 9th edition tournaments as they become less and less relevant. And we will talk more and more about 10th edition to make sure we're informing you guys on everything. And then I will make content for 10th edition like the day it comes out. Like we will be on stream learning it together. So I am so extremely excited. I can't even contain myself. And when I think about it, never mind. Okay, here we go. When I think about it, moving on.
Mm-hmm. That's the right place to cut in this.
What's winning?
The things you expect. That's what's winning. The things you expect. So,
with some interesting flavor in this first tournament you're talking. Well,
so
depends where you're going.
Here's what's hilarious. Adepticon's one of the big tournaments for 40K here in the US, right? It's the first one of the season that's like really big. And I am super amused that it had 237 people, and England was like, no, stupid colonists. No. We are going to have the biggest tournament of the weekend. And the Manchester 40K Super Major had 11 more people, Billy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, England, how are you even doing this? I would like to live somewhere where there's a Super Major every weekend. I think that
That's
sounds great.
travelable with inside of 3 hours by
Yeah.
train.
Yeah. And like Manny keeps winning, but that's because Manny's going to a tournament every weekend. Like I don't know what else Manny does with his life, but man, he's at a tournament every damn weekend.
Yeah.
So, so let's start off by talking about the Manchester 40K Super Major from, not surprisingly, Manchester, England, not Manchester, New Hampshire, or whatever I was dealing with last week. And Manny Chima has won again. Okay, I have to eat my hat here, or eat crow, or man, I don't want to eat crow. It's disgusting. Also, the crows are also my wife's friends, so I can't eat them. I said to Billy on this podcast that the Desolation squads would not be good.
And I agree.
I said that the gun profiles were not good. I said that their points costs were too high. I said all of these things. And in case anybody's wondering if I'm a brilliant prophet of 40K, I am not. Because they are obviously good because they've made a very strong appearance in the lists I'm talking about for this weekend.
In the top 8 at Manchester, I think I did the math, and there were like 80 some Desolation Marines.
Yeah,
and
yeah, it's for real.
Yeah.
So Primaris captain. So this is the Dark Angels list that won the event. Manny Chima. It's a Primaris captain, which is interesting. I'm surprised that's a lot cheaper than Azrael. 2 Talon Masters, 1 with Arbiter's Gaze, 1 with Reds of War. That's pretty normal. Blade Guard Ancient, everyone's expecting. 20 Terminators, everyone's expecting that. 2 Land Speeders with Multi-Meltas, and then here's where it gets interesting. 10 of Desolation Marines with their, I guess it's all the same gear. I was just looking. The leader has a bunch of stuff on him.
Yeah.
He's marked for command, so that's neat. And then 2 other units of 5 as well. So he took 20 Desolation Marines and then won the event. So I'm sorry, folks, if you think they're bad like I did, you simply can't take 700 points of something that's bad in your list and still win a 250 person event. So they're clearly very, very good.
Yeah. Can we talk really quickly about one of the thing that he did with that marked for command with the master crafting the indirect gun on the sergeant makes it in Devastator Doctrine D6, strength 6, AP 2, 3 damage. Indirect fire.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
And the fact that they can go to 10 lets you really leverage and every single one of them can have that super crack launcher that also has a D3 indirect shot on it, lets you leverage buffs in a way that I simply had not paid attention to the fact that you could put all 10 of them into that unit. So Colin was talking about how you can do 10 mans, which lets you leverage buffs in an amazing way, or you can do 5 mans, as Manny's done here as well, which lets you leverage the indirect gun on the sergeant, which is actually just a good profile that we used to be really excited on with a Thunderfire cannon.
Yeah, for sure. Except that it had 3d3 shots, but I'm with you. Second place is Alex Harrison, Space Wolf Successor Chapter. Billy, try to keep the camera waist level and above, please.
I basically copied this list.
Okay. He's got a captain on bike, which is always cool. I wish the captains on bikes were much more common in 40K because I think that's a super cool model. I think it should be a hover bike. That's what I'm in for, but fine. Primaris Lieutenant, 3x5 Wolf Guard. We know that they're good. These ones have Lightning Claws and Thunder Hammers and Combi Meltas, which is hilarious, right? They're just like, I brought all these things. 3x5 Wolfen, we know that Wolfen are cool. 3x5 Skyclaws, we know that Skyclaws are cool. And then 2 units of Longfangs, and then a unit of 8 Desolation Marines. All the things that we know are good from Space Wolves together in a party. I am surprised he doesn't have any Cyber Wolves. That's the big takeaway. I think it's probably because he needs.
He has 6 elites, and they fit in the fast attack, and he'd rather have the Skyclaws.
Yeah, that's fair.
The piece that also comes in there is there's no infiltrators.
Oh yeah, there's not.
Yeah, so he's doing his screening probably with those Skyclaws.
Okay, all right, that's neat. Okay, congrats to Alex Harrison for second. Third place is our friend and fast talking, sometimes hard to understand, Innes Wilson from StatCheck. I'm sure you can check out StatCheck and hear all about this. He rocked the Iron Hand successor. He played the Iron Hand successor before in 9th, and was mathing people really hard when other people thought Iron Hands weren't good. So I know this is an army that Innis has some passion for. Whirlwind of Rage and Master Artisans, like you'd expect. Then he's got a Tech Marine and a Lieutenant, so no captain rerolls at all. 2 units of 5 Infiltrators, 2 units of 5 Vanguard Vets with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields, 5 Scouts, and then he's got the character Redemptor, which he can use the stratagem on to have captain rerolls. What's that, Billy?
Contemptor, not Redemptor.
Contemptor, that's what I said. Or if it's not, it's what I meant to say. So the character Contemptor is always cool. I'm pretty sure I think the Dreadnought strat can do either the captain reroll or the lieutenant reroll, right?
I think so. I've only ever used the lieutenant version because I always had a captain. But I think
but he does not. And then 3 normal Line Speeder Tornadoes, like we've talked about before, for 70 points. They're an incredible value. Then he's got 2 units of 5 Devastators with a drop pod, Land Speeder Storm for the Scouts, 3 Eradicators, and then 2 units of 5 Desolation Marines. Colin is wrong. Colin is wrong. Colin is wrong. Or was wrong. I'm not wrong anymore because now I'll just listen.
So this weekend, as this event was happening, I was at a very small RTT and we were discussing this, and I did purchase 10 Desolation Marines off of eBay. They were still available and cheap. If you're listening to this on Tuesday, that might still be true. But get your 5 to 10.
If you're wondering if that list is good or if Innis is just good, I would like to point out that 4th place is Brian Seep. And Brian has almost the identical list.
Yeah.
It's not really, but his HQs are the same. He's got 2 units of Infiltrators. He's got a unit of 10 Vanguard Vets, but he can combat squad that, so it's very similar. He has 2 units of Scouts and 2 Line Speeder Storms, which you know how I feel about that. That's super fun. He's got the same Relic Contemptor. He's got 2 Line Speeder Tornadoes, and then the next part's the same. Devastators, Eradicators, Desolation, and Drop Pod. So really, really similar. Congrats to all of those folks. Yeah. Big congrats to Innis Wilson, of course, whose podcast career got its restart on our network. We're certainly fans of him.
And who single-handedly makes any of his shows difficult to listen to at 2x speed.
Yeah, which is great.
I can understand everyone else, and Innis, I just don't know what he's saying.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, Adepticon's up next out of beautiful and probably ridiculously cold at this time of year Chicago. Schaumburg, Illinois, if you prefer. And it was won by Nassim Fuchain. I think is how we decided I say his name because I talk about him every week now. Nassim? It's Nassim. Nassim. I'm so sorry, Nassim.
That's how I've heard it when other people have said
I am so sorry. I am a ignorant person. This list is fantastic because I looked at this list and I said, and then I went to Battlescribe and I looked at the last guard list that I played. I played several games with it to test it out before I decided that I didn't want to play guard and went to Dark Angels. And this list is like 100 points different. Like, he and I don't know each other. I'm not saying that he copied anything, just our brains went very similar places. So he's rocking guard. Death Corps Marshal, very inexpensive guy. Love it. Command Squad, of course, with the bodyguard, obviously. Lord Solar Leontis, he is literally on fire. Solar. Tank Commander with Gatekeeper. All of that is very straightforward. 3 units of... Excuse me, sorry, guys. 3 units of Cadians with melting guns and plasma guns, sure. 2 units of Karsakins, absolutely. One of them has plasma guns, one of them does not. That's so that one of them can use the strats. There is a Chimera for the other unit, which is super fun. Really into that. And that, of course, can take that Death Corps Marshal can kind of ride in there with them. Super duper neat. And then he loves the Armored Sentinels. I love them too. I think they're incredible, and I don't know why we haven't seen more of them, and we've started to see them in the winning list, so that's really exciting. I think for 150 points, getting 3 Armored Sentinels with 3 plasma cannons that can use the banner to ignore hit penalties. They can get reroll ones to hit. You could mastercraft them, or excuse me, I think you can throw not Mastercraft. I think you could throw the chapter rerolls on them. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong on that, but I think they're core, so I don't see why not. So they're just an incredible unit, and you might think, well, people are going to shoot them. That's great. They are weird. They are very durable for their points. You actually want people to shoot them. It's much better than people shooting at your Russes. So he's got 6 of those. Then he's got 3 Scout Sentinels, also with plasma cannons, because why not? 3x3 mortars, 2 Lehman Russes, and a Chimera. I adore this list. Good job, Nassim. All in. Man, I'm all in with you here. Second up is Arnie Zernt, and this is great because he got second place at the event with Legions of Votann. I don't understand this army. Like, not his list, the army in general. It seems like things are too expensive and you don't get enough for them, and I never seem to have a good game against them, and then somebody takes them and goes like 7-1 with them. I just don't understand. I need to be taught this. I need someone to treat me like I'm a 6-year-old and teach me how this works. So he's got the Forge Master. This is Ymir. Oh, it's not. Wait, is it?
No, it's Greater Thurian League.
Oh, okay, great. Different tech. So we've got the Forge Master. We've got Uthar the Destined. He's got 5 Berserkers, 5 Hearthguard, 5 Hearthguard, 3x3 Pioneers. We know they're great. They're actually hovering motorcycles, just so GW pays attention. 3 Thunderkin, and then 2 Land Fortresses. This is the stuff that people take. It's very similar to the stuff that people take. He went 7-1. Perhaps he's the second coming of a Warhammer player, but I suspect the actual situation is that Votann are better than I think they are. And
actually, Colin, I may return to a plug we did earlier. If you want someone to treat you like a very smart 6-year-old in Tully Votann, Nick literally did that on Next Generation last weekend. Not that I've listened to it yet, but I have to assume that that's a great starting point.
It kind of has to be.
Yeah.
So returning to competitive 40K is Nick Rose. He was off for a while. I know he played in a tournament we talked about already. Nick is a longtime 40K player, and he's a very passionate Genestealer Cult player. So he's definitely playing Genestealer Cult, and he got 3rd place. This is very similar to the meta Genestealer Cult, what we're seeing now, tons of neophytes and bikes. The main thing here is that he takes 2 units of close combat acolytes, which I know that Tyler has moved away from entirely. He takes 1, 2, 3, 4 units of 5 acolytes. That makes sense to me. You want them for various different jobs. You certainly want at least 2 that can deep strike. I like to deep strike more. And then he's got 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's got 20 neophytes. 4 by 20. He's got 80 neophytes rather. 4 by 20. We've talked about neophytes. They come in, they blow the crap out of you. Biophagus, and then 3 units of 10, 2 units of 10, and 1 unit of 5 Jackals. Very similar to what the meta is doing for Genestealer Cult. Absolutely love it. Good job, Nick Rose. 4th place is another guard list. This one from Thomas Ogden. If there's math that lets Thomas shoot you off the table, Thomas is doing it. He's a Tau player first, and he probably looked at this and said, that's better Tau. He's not wrong. Command Squad, Solar, 2 Tank Commanders, 3x10 Cadians, 2 units of Karsigans. He likes 5 Ratlings in his list. I think that's really neat. I love Ratlings. My read of them is they're too expensive, but it's only 50 points, so it's not like he's wasting a lot of points.
If you get the attacker-defender role, you can use them to screen out areas for your Khazarkins to first turn deep strike.
Of course, but so can a Scout Sentinel.
Okay, fair.
And the Scout Sentinel's 45 points, and I think has higher value once the game starts.
Totally
but so be it. It's not like 50 points makes that big of a difference. Don't think that every 5 points is going to determine whether you win a tournament, folks. It's how good you are. 3x3 mortars, 3 more Russes, and then he's got a Tempestus Scion patrol with a command squad and 2 more units of 5 Scions. Super neat list. Everything in this makes perfect sense, other than the Ratlings, which I'm sure were wonderful for him. I've certainly played them in tournament and love them deeply with all of my heart. My wife painted them for me, and there's one guy's got a little bag of apples. It's so cute. So that's it. We've got 9 minutes for Billy to talk about several tournaments. Go for it, Billy.
All right, probably just going to go over 2 of them, and yeah. So starting with the Fantasia Fanatic 43. 40K. In Umeå, Sweden, 43 versions of this event. That's freaking insane. 104 players for 5 rounds. I want to talk about this because the names of the people are amazing, and boy, do I apologize in advance. But first place was Jesper Unander Sharon. I know it's a soft J at the start, and hope I got the rest of that right. He brought Custodes, Emperor's Chosen, basically what you would expect. Trajan and Bike Captain, 3 Custodian Guard, 3 threes of Sagittarium, 2 solo Alarises, 3 Wardens, Praetor, 3 and 3 Venatari, 3 Bikes, 5 Witch Seekers. You don't really see any Dreadnoughts anymore in Custodes. You don't see any tanks anymore in Custodes. It's just all golden boys generally walking across the board and killing you. Well done by Jesper. Second place, we have Daniel Bergstrom, who brought Imperial Knights. Tyrannus. He brought a Paladin and a bunch of doggos. 6 total Warglaves, 2 Armigers, 2 Moiraxes, and 4 Voidsmen, just to do things. Hello, Mitchell. How are you doing, sir? Third place, we have Eetu Peltola, EETU. Just truly a collection of letters you do not see in English, but I enjoy that the Swedish version of it. They have a slightly different alphabet too, don't they?
Can I comment without being? That's a great name that I'm sure is wonderful, and I'm not. I would like to point out it sounds like a Star Wars droid to me. That's all. Continue on.
A little bit. Eetu, actually, I have no idea Eetu's gender. That could be any name. Eetu brought Nihilak. He brought the Silent King. Eetu brought the Silent King. Brought a Technomancer, 2 6s of Scorpex, 3 Hexmarks, 5 Wraiths, 3 and 3 Tomb Blades, 6 Destroyers, 3 Doomsday Arcs, which is a little bit spicy, 2 Crypto Thralls, 2 Plasmacytes. So, the Doomsday Arc version of Necrons, along with the Silent King, who you have not been seeing a ton of in current lists. But, E2 4-0-1. So did not lose at all with that list. And then in fourth place, Joel Larson. That might be a common enough name that it is a different Joel Larson, but I do believe we've spoken of Joel Larson in the past. So Joel brought Emperor's Chosen, Custodes, almost an exact copy paste of above, an extra Warden instead of Venatari. He literally just swapped 3 Venatari for 3 Wardens, and it's the same list. Suggests that, to Colin's point earlier of there's not a ton of new innovation in lists. The biggest thing that happened was Manchester with Desolation Marines, and otherwise we are largely seeing the same. Each individual army is largely solidifying around its core. I actually do think that the Desolation Marines might do an interesting thing by putting indirect into Marines that could force some innovation elsewhere, but we'll see. And then we'll see how long this next one takes me to do 1 or 2 more events. The All Is Dust GT in Petawawa, Canada. Hopefully that's how you say that, and I kind of hope it is because that's an amazing sounding name. This is won by the wonderful and delightful Anthony Violence Vanilla.
Woo!
We're very happy for Anthony.
Good job, Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony brought World Eaters. Talk about a list that doesn't get a lot of opportunities to iterate itself. I have been told by World Eaters players that literally changing one unit for another leads to wildly different play patterns. Sure, you're just trying to punch me in the face as hard as you can, but maybe you're punching me with your left hand instead of your right.
But this is important because Anthony's been in on this army since before the Codex came out and was committed that this is what he was going to do. And people were saying, it's not good enough to win. And he's like, no. And then he wins with it. It's so good that he got a chance to say, no, I was right. This is good. And I'm good. And here we go.
Yeah, and he's right. I got a chance to play against World Eaters, and let me do the list first and then talk some thoughts. He did the Lord Invocatus, and then what I'm just going to call the Pig Lord, because I'm the Pig Daddy. It's another Lord on Juggernaut. 5 5s of Berserkers, 3 3s of both 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound, 3 solo spawn, 2 Rhinos. The thing that, having not played against them, that I didn't realize is the amount of fight on death that this army has, which means that it's almost always just going to trade out. And if you count the amount of trade pieces, it has 11 units before the characters that just will kill whatever they touch. So you end up just sort of counting out your trade pieces versus theirs, and theirs go very fast and hit very hard and can hide in those rhinos. And so it becomes, the kind of game that Anthony thinks about of the way to use those trade pieces and optimize them and maybe trade for 1.5 or 2. That's how that World Eaters matchup is going to go. So, it's a real army. Do you have thoughts? You're still okay.
Sorry.
Second place, Zach Comio. EAU is a tough collection of letters to know exactly how to say, but Zach brought guard. Did some variations in here. Lord Solar, tank commander. So skipping that command squad with the banner of really annoyingness. 5 Ratlings, 3 5s of Rough Riders. Okay. 2 solo scout sense, 5 Lehman Russes, and then the Tempestus Patrol with the command squad and the 2 5s of Scions. All of that hits hard. Rough Riders are fun. Find those old metal models if you can. Third place, Tim Dietlifs, who we do talk about quite a bit, brought Light Clowns. Really complicated list, let me tell you. 2 Shadow Seers, 1 Troop Master, 8 troops at 8 boats, a Death Jester, and 2 Bolus Bikes. That
was so hard to go through.
I mean, there was some variation in the weapons on the troops, but just they had some special weapons in those 8 5-mans. When you have 9 total data sheets to build your army from, you don't have a ton of options. There's a lot of options in how it plays. And certainly a beautiful clowns list is, I think, the best looking thing in the game, but not a lot of opportunities to iterate there. And then in 4th place, for the first time not being in first place that I can remember when talking about him, Sam Procopio did not win the event, but he did still take his Blood Angels. He did the thing that you normally are going to do with Blood Angels, Chapter Master Priest, 2 5s of Infiltrators. He did bring 3 Aggressors, which is a new thing that he was trying out, and I'd be curious to see about that. And then just all of the jump pack dudes. Only 5 Death Company with hammers, no other Death Companies, 3 5s of Sangers, 2 5s of Assault Squads, 5 Scouts in a Storm, 5 Devastators, no pod, no way to get them there. They probably outflank if I had to guess, because they're Grav and Multi-Melta. It's a little short range. And then 2 Helvrings. So more shooting, but then just a bunch of red angry boys with jump packs coming at you. And that's the All Is Dust GT 40K in Petawala.
Okay. Well, this was a really fun episode, and I'm really excited about the next few months. We might actually take a couple week hiatus and kind of redesign the show a little bit right before 10th comes out. I've thought about that we might take just like 2 weeks off when the tournaments aren't super relevant, and do a little bit of work on content. But that's just a thought. I don't know that that's what will happen. It's just, I've considered that. Anywho, remember to check out our shows on Best in Tabletop on YouTube or on any podcast network that you happen to find. Better Human, Better Gamer is tomorrow night at 5:00 p.m. If you haven't tuned into that, it is a fantastic journey of several nerds to be the best human they can be, and as a result, be a better gamer. It is a fantastic thing that we do, and I love doing it, and I would love your feedback. So give it a listen. Tell us what you think. Then BiffPod TNG later in the week, usually on Saturday morning, but they move it around a little bit. But you can find it when it is on our YouTube. And then finally, the OG, Best in Faction, 100 and whatever episodes strong, right on my shirt. They'll be on Sunday. Well, we'll be on. I'm on that show. And we're going to be talking about 10th, 9th, 8th, and 7th. So we're gonna remind you why you should be excited about a new edition, rather than no, 7th was the best edition. No, it was not. You are a troll.
No one says that.
What's that?
Does anyone actually say that?
Yeah. Oh, yes. We've had that in the Discord. We've had people say that in the Discord, and I'm like, you're just trolling.
Okay.
Anywho, thank you for joining us for This Week in 40K, the show that's neither grim nor dark about the grimdark. He's Billy. I'm Colin because someone has to be, and I enjoy being Colin for those that are wondering. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday morning. Bye, everybody.
Bye.